Ever notice your grooming scissors a little bit wobbly? Suppress that urge to tighten that screw. A wobble isn't always a bad thing, and screwing with a screw won't do anything but ruin your scissors. I'll explain why in the next couple of minutes. Now, it's not commonly known, but each screw is hand tightened to the exact tension required to hold the blades in perfect alignment. That's something that has to be done by hand. It's the cornerstone of a good pair of scissors, and the tension is something you have to feel in the steel. Now, if the screw's too tight, those blades are going to grind and chip along the cutting edge, which will make for a very ragged cut. If the screw's too loose, the blades just won't cut. They'll bend or tear. The amount of tension required will vary from scissor to scissor, and machines can't tell the difference. Only a human can, but not just any human, a trained and skilled craftsman. Now, due to the curve of the blades, a properly tensioned grooming scissor is always going to have a slight wobble when it's overextended like this. But how much wobble is too much? Here's an easy test. Hold your scissors point upward in one hand and raise the opposite loop and let it fall. It doesn't matter which hand you use or how vertical you hold the scissors, so long as they're mostly upright. Watch what happens when gravity and friction kick in. If you do this a couple times, you'll notice that the scissors only close by themselves up to a certain distance. Right where it stops is where the cutting begins. If there's too little blade left, they're very loose, and you won't be able to cut much, if anything. If they don't drop, they're too tight and they're going to grind when you do close them. What you're looking for is a scissor that hits the sweet spot in between, where the blades are close enough to shear the nail, but not so close that they're going to grind it. This makes a scissor that won't rip or tear and will last for decades without needing to be resharpened. Now, as you're doing this test, keep in mind that different types of scissors will require different amounts of tension. So the amount of blade left will vary slightly from type to type. For example, cuticle scissors only cut with the tip. Do this test and pick a pair that gives you enough blade left to work with. Now, I do have a few bad examples to show you. I can't show you brands for legal reasons, but feel free to try this at home with your own scissors. So, this first scissor I picked up at the local corner drugstore, and I'll do that same test. See how there's very little blade left to make a shearing cut? This is no good. Here's another one. Again, I'll hold it like this, do the same test. I'll hold it like this and do the... Okay, so that's obviously bad. It's far too tight. That blade's just going to chip and it's going to grind. Both of those scissors, they're useless right out of the package. I paid something like 10 or 15 bucks for each of them. For less than $10 more, I could have bought a scissor like this one, and I'd have this one forever. All right, so if you've got a bad scissor, why not just tweak that screw a little bit? Because scissors can't be fixed. They have to be crafted correctly the first time. You see, one half of the scissor is crafted with a hole that's a little bit bigger than the screw, and then the other half has a smaller pre-threaded hole. Now, when a scissor is assembled, the screw goes through and bites into the steel of the smaller hole, and it grips firmly. Now, if you adjust that screw, the tension is ruined, and those scissors just are not going to shear your nail cleanly. They'll bend and tear it. This kind of damage to the scissor is unfixable because there's nothing left to bite into once that firm grip is released. From that point onward, it's kind of like tightening a stripped screw. With no grip, it's just going to spin around and it'll probably fall out. Some manufacturers took this issue into consideration and designed the scissors with a hand-tightened Torx star-shaped screw so they can't be fussed with by mistake. Now, the unfortunate thing is that mass-produced scissors can't be hand-tensioned, and they're very, very common, so that most people think that screwing with that screw won't hurt anything. Those people could not be more wrong. The big box store scissors, they start out badly tensioned. So I suppose you can screw with their screws. You're not going to make them any worse, but why bother? You won't make them any better either. Save yourself the trouble. Save yourself the money. Get yourself a quality scissor for just a few dollars more. And just don't screw with the screw.